I'm holding on to my chair, not stopping myself from doing it, and you're just swinging around.
To keep warm.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
It is cold in the studio, isn't it? Sorry about that.
That's all right.
The sureness, the confidence of that music, it hits me. I wonder whether you feel the same thing when you're listening to it again, when you've been watching it there. You know what you want, you know the effect you want to achieve, and it's there. It's there.
Yeah, I feel good about it. Sometimes I watch things and I squirm because I think when they're created, maybe I wasn't feeling as confident or sure about myself or the direction it was going in, but I feel good about that.
Yeah, because I mean, the last album you did went to platinum, didn't it? And gold. It was phenomenally successful.
It went to, well, my solo record, Jewel, went gold in England, yeah, and did really well in Australia and other parts of the world.
But doesn't that build layer upon layer upon layer of confidence, so that when you come to this, you feel, well, you shouldn't squirm anymore. For goodness' sake, it's gone. You're onto different things.
Yeah, well, I think you kind of, I'm my own worst critic, really. Anyone who knows me knows that maybe I'm a perfectionist, and I'm always thinking, well, that could have been better. After a while, you just have to let it go and move on.
Yeah. Where do you begin with your music? Do you have to work in a particular place, for example? Do you have to be in America, LA, New York?
No,
Detroit?
Doesn't matter where I am. I can write in a cab, really.
Can you?
Yeah, I mean, it just depends on where I get the idea. I mean, I can listen to the radio. Someone will say something on the radio, and I'll go, oh, that sounds like a line of a song or a title. Basically, I work with titles, concepts, really strong concepts, and I write them down, and I feel like I have these like little antenna on my head. I'm always looking for inspiration around me, things that I read, films, like I said, radio. Friends will say something, and I'll go, excuse me a minute, I have to go write that down.
So it's words first. It's words.
It's a title and a concept first. I think when I was fantasy writing, what I mean by that is when I was writing for other people and thinking about what they wanted, sometimes music would come first, and whatever followed, I'd develop that into a song. But now it's really important to me to come up with things that I feel really passionate about, as it's about me and the way I relate to the world and, my friends. And I find people quite fascinating, and the dynamics of relationships quite fascinating. And I'm a humanitarian, so I write about issues that affect me,
But aren't issues and aren't dynamics of relationships pretty much of the same wherever you go? Do you not find, as you kind of go through life, that the same situations arise, that human nature doesn't really alter very much, that, once you've experienced this, you're going to experience it all the way?
I think so, if I get what you were meaning. But I think sometimes there are lessons that we just have to keep learning over and over again till we kind of move beyond them and go, right, well, I don't need to learn that lesson anymore. I learned that one really well. And then you kind of move on and you pay attention to things that might be different, But, yeah.
Which was the most formative part of your musical career? You've had, you worked with Eric Clapton, for example, and you wrote that song.
Right.
Did that come about because of a particular relationship you had with him? I don't mean a sexual relationship, I mean just,
I won't tell.
The relationship. The relationship. Musically, what happened?
Well, what happened was, to make a really long story short, I was in Detroit. I was in a band with Bob Seger, and who was a big artist in America. And that band kind of went through different incarnations. And some of the people were fired, and some others were hired. And these two guys that were hired from Tulsa, Oklahoma, after we were in that band for a while with Bob, it split up. They invited me to go to Tulsa, and through them, we had a great band in Tulsa. At that time in the 70s, it was a really huge, amazing music scene, and a lot of notables used to come and jam with us, like J.J. Cale and Leon Russell and Carl Radel, who was in Derek and the Dominoes, a bass player. And that's how I met Eric, through Carl. And he was like my mentor, he took care of me and all of us that were in the band together. And Eric called him around the time of 461 Ocean Boulevard and said, I want to put a band together. And Carl told him about us, and that's how it all started.
But the music, the words, the everything, it just came naturally to you, didn't it?
Well, I've always been writing. I've always been involved in music since I was 5 years old, and in writing, poetry and stories and stuff since I was 5. But I started playing instruments when I was 8. I played the violin for about 4 years. Then I got into playing the guitar, like when I was about 11, 12. My father bought me an electric guitar, but I also played a little bit of piano and a little bit of accordion. I've always had this real affinity towards music. It's always been a real outlet for me.
But how then do you take the knocks of the rock business, the rock music business? In a way, I could imagine you being in the classical area because of the sensitivity and because of the talent that you've got. And then to have this, You have to promote, you have to tour, you have to put up with the stuff you've had to put up with in your career. And how do you come through that? Is it family-based? Do you feel as though when you go back you've got something to earth you and you don't have to worry about all of that? Or is there something, well, it doesn't matter anymore?
I don't know. I don't handle it very well. It's very difficult for me because I am too sensitive, probably. And when I was studying acting, my acting coach used to, try to force everybody to think about developing a tougher skin, because you really need it in acting, in music, in any kind of the arts. You really need to have a tougher skin. But unfortunately, that kind of goes with the territory, really. Being creative, I feel like sometimes I'm like this vulnerable, raw, live wire. I am just so easily affected by things, and it's really hard for me to kind of put up a wall and not be affected. The thing that I have now is that I didn't have before is I have a family. I have a son. He's 5, and he's like the joy of my life, really. And I have a marriage, which I'm really happy in. So that helps.
So does he come with you, or does he stay at home?
My son?
Yeah, your little boy.
Well, right now he's in America because it was always my plan after he was born and I moved. I live outside of LA, about an hour in the country, in farmland, which everyone says, LA, farmland?
Yes, I know, it's
not
difficult.
Compute, right? But where I live now is really wonderful, and it's good for my son. So my plan was to always move back to LA when he was 5, to have him start school there. And that's what we've done as of September, but I don't know how long that's going to last.
And in the middle of all of this, with your baby, well, your young boy now and home, you're writing music for a film, absolutely fabulous. You finished that.
Yeah.
That's it's very British. I know it's shown on American TV, but did it take you a while to get in tune, as they say, with that, or did it come quite easily for you?
Well, the great thing about that whole thing was Jennifer Saunders approached me about a year and a half ago and told me about it, and she kind of gave me a description of what it was about. So I knew it was coming, for about a year and a half, like I said. And finally, this summer, in August, right before I was going to go back home, she said, oh, I finished the script and I'm ready for you to write some music. And I was like, oh, no, I'm going back in a week. But it was a real challenge for me. I said, well, don't worry. I have a computer at home. I can send things back and forth over to this guy, Simon Brint, who is her musical director and does a lot of her music for all her things. And we just agreed to write over the wire, basically. Send it through FedEx, and here's a dad, tell me what you think, call me and don't be afraid of changing this or that. It was a real challenge. And because it takes place, it was centered around the 60s. I love 60s and 70s music. I'm a real fan of Motown and, things all out of that era. So for me, it was a lot of fun and a real challenge.
Well, I'm looking forward to hearing. When's it coming out? When's the movie coming out?
Well, it was a TV movie, and it was aired a few weeks ago.
Was it? I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah,
I haven't seen it.
So it was called The Last Shout.
Okay, I'll have to keep my eyes open for that. Sorry it's so cold in here.
That's okay.
We'll warm it up for you next time you come round. Marcella, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
It's been a great pleasure for me too. We'll take a short break. Don't go away. Back in just a moment.